I am live. Okay, I am so nervous. I wanted to go live today. Usually, I make videos on my phone and edit, or at least try to, and then upload it. But this is one where I feel like I just have to go on live. I've made some notes. Usually, my videos on this channel are about money and finances and things like that. But this is something a bit personal today. And quite frankly, I don't want to share it. So if people find it, I am documenting it for me to add my voice to the amazing community of ex Jehovah's Witnesses on YouTube. I have found the videos very helpful. I have gotten so much from them, and I am just documenting and adding my story to it as well. So, as you see from the title, why I am no longer a Jehovah's Witness. So, of course, going to do a bit of background. I've watched a few of these. So, I was born, my parents were Jehovah's Witnesses. My mom was born in as well. I don't know about my grandparents, but as long as I've known them, they have been witnesses. So that's on my mom's side. On my dad's side, he is actually the only witness. I think one of his cousins did join with him for a bit. I don't think he ever did get baptized. So it really is just my dad on his side. So I grew up in Nigeria. So this 80s, 90s, and all of that, if you can work out what my age is. So it was the fairly, is there such a thing as a standards Jehovah's Witnesses upbringing? But I was the first of three, and we always had relatives come live with us as well in the house. I'm not going to edit this. You're getting whatever you're getting. I'm not expecting anybody to come on live because I haven't, like I said, I'm just documenting it to add my voice to the movement. So I had, I guess, quite an isolated childhood in a way, in the sense of the other kids. So you know what it's like. You're meant to be no part of this world, and like my mom used to say, you're not calling anyone who's not a witness your friends, because what do you really have in common? The most important thing ever, you don't have it in common. So what would you really have in common? I think if we didn't have, I guess what you call like a corner shop, we always had that. That was the place where I would be, and that would be the place where I would meet people. And then, of course, the other interaction is in the door-to-door service, which we did every week, a few times a week as well. But yes, I did have a very strong sense of being different, not just in practice, but also being told that as well, that you're supposed to be different. And I'm not going to go into every detail of everything. Some things I'm not comfortable sharing yet, so this is just sort of high level and go to the point of how I ended up leaving. There's a lot I'm not going to share because I'm just not quite there yet. I'm still working through the myriad of issues that you can sometimes come out with growing up as a Jehovah's Witness. So apart from the isolation from the other kids, the other thing that really stood out to me as well was the hypocrisy. Now, at the time, I wasn't sure whether this was just a Nigerian thing or it was a witness thing. To be fair, I still don't know to an extent, but there was a lot of hypocrisy. So people saying one thing from the platform and in the day-to-day, giving a certain image and doing something else behind closed doors. And that really did mess me up as a kid, because it was, double life, double speak. And sitting here now in this position, while I don't necessarily agree with it, but I can understand when people are in a position where they feel back to the corner, where, well, they can't leave. They have to be seen to be living to this standard, but they don't want to do it, but they can't not live like a witness because they're probably going to lose all their family. I can kind of understand why it was quite prevalent to have such a double life, but what I will say, if you're going to do that, make sure you're not hurting people in the process of you doing that. But that's just that's my little two piece. But that was something that was quite prevalent as well. A lot of hypocrisy. I was well, on the outside, I looked like the poster child for what a good witness kid could be. I went out in service. I was what's the word I'm looking for? um, articulate. Yeah, you couldn't tell by this, could you? Articulate and fluent for a child. In terms of how I express myself, which is probably, if there was one good thing that I would pick from that, is that in Nigeria, witness children tend to have more opportunities to learn to read and get literate. So that was probably the only one good thing that I could pick from that, is that I did learn to read quite early from all the weekly 3 times a week, from the 3 times a week meeting days. So Tuesdays, Fridays, and Sundays. The Bible study, which was held at our house for some time, and then you have the Kingdom Ministry School and Theocratic Service, and the Kingdom Hall on a Friday, and then on Sunday you have the public talk and watch your study, and then you have field service afterwards, and all of that good stuff. So from the 3 days a week era, and you do get a lot of chances to learn to read and get literate. So that was the only good thing. And that's my phone. Let me put it on silent. Okay, so that was my experience growing up. I lived in Nigeria until I was 18, and then I moved to the UK. And I had a bit of a shock, because it seemed to me that these people here, this was down in Portsmouth, these people down in Portsmouth, the witnesses, because when you go somewhere new, the first thing you do is look for a Kingdom Hall and look for the congregation and introduce yourself. In fact, your parents make sure that you do that. So I was 18, I came straight away. I came with a bunch of students. We'd come on a scholarship, and there were 2 of us that were witnesses, and one of them that was, I guess, an interested person, as they used to call them. I don't know if that's what they call them now. So that was in 2008. We arrived here, found a congregation pretty much immediately. They were very nice, and they seemed genuine. Like, they actually wanted to be witnesses. There was a bit more, or it seemed to me at the time, a bit more freedom to sort of come and go. The culture was a bit more open, shall we say, and a bit more, it seemed to me, freedom of thought. And I was very impressed by that. And it looks like, no, these people actually genuinely want to be witnesses. They're not under duress, or that's what it seemed to me at the time. And so this is not a witness thing. That was just a thing from when I was growing up, and they seemed like they really wanted to be there. And so it's something wrong with me. It's because, of course, growing up, I had absorbed some of that double life, and I was living it myself. I put my hands up, I was living it as well. The saying one thing and doing something else behind closed doors. So I was determined to get myself straight, to get myself right, because I can see proof that it is possible to be a witness and actually want to be a witness. So I know I'm missing a lot of things, but stay with me here. It's high level, like I said. So when I arrived, about a year, I'd come to do college for a bit, and then I was going to start university the following year. So I think that first year was just about observing and seeing, okay, this is possible. So I made a commitment that when I moved to the new city, I was going to, when I get to the Kingdom Hall, I was going to come clean and have a fresh start, just say everything and, help get myself right and set myself straight. So that's what I decided I was going to do. So I moved to the new Kingdom Hall. I spoke to the elders. I gave them a bit of background, what had happened, how I felt, and that I wanted to start again, literally start again, treat me as if I was studying from scratch, because I'm not really sure I believed the things. It was drilled into me. I'd, gone in service, preached to people, had Bible students and all of that, but there was no real sort of connection. I don't know whether it's the double speak, the seeing the adults at the time saying one thing and doing something else. So that real fear of, Jehovah is going to be is watching and is seeing you type of fear. It wasn't really there. I didn't doubt that he was real, or it's just not something that I thought about very much. I'd just accepted that your witnesses, that's what you do. It wasn't even an option in my mind to not be a witness. It was just part of what you did. So I spoke to them. I said, I feel like I'm not really connecting to it on a heart level, and I feel like I need to start again. So they arranged for an older sister to study with me, basically. So I would go over to their house once a week. So leading up to the meeting, I would go over, I would make dinner together. Those were really nice times, to be honest. They were very nice. She taught me how to make a lot of English food, a lot of which I can't remember now. But yeah, so we would cook food together. Then she would study with me, with her husband, and then we would go to the Kingdom Hall together and come home. And that was a nice time. So we did that. We basically started from scratch. Who is Jehovah? Oh, by the way, I didn't mention, I got baptized at the age of 12. And the spookiest thing, I can't forget this, and maybe that is where I should have known that there's something off. I remember coming out of the water. I had a white t-shirt and a long flay dark blue skirt. I remember coming out of the water, and the first thought that crossed my mind was, what have you just done? What have you just done? And oh, that is yeah, that did give me a chill. Well, I can't forget that. But anyway, so I did get baptized at the age of 12, which is, as we know, quite common for a lot of witnesses. I had the Here I Am song. I don't know what it is now on the song, the Here I Am, Send Me song for my baptism. Yes, that happened. Okay, fast forward. We basically started again with this sister as if I was a brand new person, and just sort of work through things and trying to find a way to, I think I really wanted to connect to the ransom and what that meant, and try to find some gratitude inside of me, because I felt that maybe if I could connect with that and feel grateful, then I might feel that connection, right? So that carried on for about nearly 2 years. This sister, she had one of her daughters that had been disfellowshipped. So it's funny, I didn't think about it much at the time, but her daughter would bring her kids over. She wasn't allowed to come in the house. She would just sort of drop them out and then go, which, looking back, that was very odd. But we know what it's like. So this study thing went on for about 2 years, and I just felt like things weren't getting any better. I was just feeling worse and worse every time I got to the Kingdom Hall. But just felt that I wasn't good enough, that I was somehow, dare I say it, contaminating the place, because I was really struggling to feel like I was part of it, or really make some sort of connection with it, which probably in hindsight was my mind fighting the jargon for what it was and not really connecting to it. But that carried on for a while. So now we get up to 2011. I'd been working on this for about 3 years now in total. I was due to go to Belgium for a year as part of my degree, to work in Belgium for 1 year. And I decided that when I went to Belgium, I was not going to look for a Kingdom Hall, because I just needed some space. I just needed some time, because it was getting quite suffocating. So I moved to Belgium for a year. Didn't look for any Kingdom Hall, any witnesses. When witnesses came round, I would, be nice to them. I wouldn't tell them that I was one. I would, politely accept the literature all the time, completely racked with guilt. And so as soon as I can get myself right, get my head right, I would go back. So at the end of Belgium, I came back. I fell pregnant during that year. So when I returned to the UK in 2012, of course, I'd come back to the same city because I still had a year left of my degree. And I, oh my goodness, I nearly resorted to buying hijabs and niqabs, whatever, the one that covers your face, because I was so worried about running into any of the witnesses that knew me, because where do I even start? Everything was just wrong with that picture from a witness point of view. Obviously, I wasn't married. My father had phone numbers for some of the people. They didn't know that I was pregnant because I didn't tell them. So I found out I was pregnant in the April of 2012. So I didn't tell them. I didn't want to run into someone who had their phone number for, and then they would tell him that they'd seen me pregnant, because how do you even process that? So yes, I tried to stay in hiding until I had my child. I did finish my degree as well, so yay. And then just sort of tried to stay on the down low. When I would meet or spot someone from afar that was someone I knew from the Kingdom Hall, I would make a sharp turn and try and avoid them all the time, completely racked with guilt, just waiting for the time when I would eventually sort myself out and go back. During this time, still bought in completely that this was the one true organization. It was just the people. Some people were what they were. It is something wrong with me that I couldn't really connect with it and believe it. It was nothing wrong with the organization itself. I just needed to figure myself out and sort myself out, basically, and then go back. During this time, my son's godmother, who we'd met at uni, she is a member of a church, and she'd been inviting me for a few years. And you know what it's like when you're a witness, you don't step foot in a church. That's just, why would you do that? So eventually around 2014-15, I thought I'd give it a go. I thought I'd see. I tell you what really got me: hearing the concept of grace, of it's not anything that you have to do to be accepted by God. I guess it's the whole faith and works grace thing, isn't it? And just the idea of just being accepted and the personal relationship with Jesus thing. It sounded really nice, and it was new to me, the way it was explained, and I said I'll give it a go. So I started going and met some fantastic people who are still in my life right now. But I struggled to accept some of the teachings that were in conflict with what the witnesses believed. And I still thought the witnesses were the one true organization. And so when the church would teach something that was directly in conflict, I think the biggest issue for me, for example, was Trinity. And I was like, but if you cannot even get right who it is we're meant to be worshiping, how can I trust anything you say? So, oh, there's someone watching. Oh no. Oh, I I was just doing this on my own. Anyway, whoever you are that's watching, hello, say hello. So I struggled with the Trinity, and I would ask questions and question, and I just always felt like the witnesses were right, and then the New World Translation versus the other Bibles, and I felt like I couldn't move forward until I fully resolved, this teaching. So Trinity, no, I think that was the main thing, really. Yeah, the main thing was Trinity. Everything else, I could sort of rationalize it, but if we can't agree on who it is we're worshiping, that's a big deal. Is it God that is God, or is it Jesus? That was a big deal. So that carried on for a while again. So now we get to end of 2017, 2018. When I was getting a bit sick of, being in this cycle of, really trying and saying, Jehovah, Jesus, whoever you are, like I do want to know the truth. I want to, because in the church they tell you just have to ask, you don't have to do anything. So I've been asking and asking, and I felt like I was stuck in this loop. So at the end of 2017, 2018, I said, right, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go back and properly investigate the witnesses. I know it's taken a long time to get to this point. It's become a bit of a life story sort of thing, but this wasn't planned. I mean, I have a few notes, but I was just going to freestyle. So end of 2017, 2018, I said, let me actually find out about the witnesses. Let's go back to the beginning. How did they start? And how did they get to this point, and sort of figure out what was going on there? And that's where my world started to implode. So Charles Taze Russell, the things you don't find out reading just the literature, the things he used to believe, his prophecy about 1884 was the other 1889 that the world was going to end, and then coming up to 1914, and sort of his background. And because when you're a witness, it don't really tell you very much about the prophecies that have been made about when the world is supposed to end, but then just how many times that had happened as well. It was quite a lot, and that's I started to sort of sow the seed of doubt. And then finding out about Betzarim, and the mansion that had been bought in America, that apparently David and Abraham and whoever else from the Bible, they were expecting to come and live there. What I was seeing was a religion that looked very man-made, where people made mistakes. So that was sort of the start of that. Two YouTubers as well who I found very useful. John Cedars, Lloyd Evans is his actual name, but his channel is called the John Cedars channel. I gathered so much from that. And another lady, I don't think she makes videos currently, but Anonymous, I found their videos very helpful as well. So I was just soaking all this information up, trying researching so much information. The lies, the child abuse policies, this absolutely breaks my heart. I'm not gonna get upset. The Australian Royal Commission and the massive cover-up of child abuse. I mean, no God could possibly want this to be happening, for children to be getting abused, something that affects their lives for the rest of their lives, for people to be able to just go ahead and keep doing that and not be brought to justice because of some kind of policy. Even ordinary me can see that that's not right. How on earth can the one true organization of God be covering this up? That was just, I was fuming. I was very angry. And then the blood policy. Now, throughout the whole time that I've sort of known, I've always known you couldn't take blood, and then so maybe towards the early 2000s or something, the blood fractions became optional. But I didn't know how much flip-flopping there had been in the past as well. You are literally playing with people's lives. And let's go back and look at the Bible. How are you interpreting what it actually says? Not to eat blood. Well, transfusion wasn't there then. And that's just yeah, so much with that. And then sort of applauding kids who had decided to die, knowing everything that I did know about all the lies that were part of the history. And then the 1975 thing. The other thing as well, which really struck me, the Mexico Malawi comparison. I think John Cedars done a video on this as well, where witnesses in Malawi weren't allowed to carry a card, and they were being killed for that, killed and raped and all sorts of things happening to them, whereas the witnesses in Mexico were given free reign to do basically a similar thing. And the double standard with that. And then the other thing as well, specifically witnesses finding out that they had been part of the United Nations. I mean, I love the revelation, its grand climax at Panburg, because I was a bit of a geek, in that sense. So I lapped up everything up in that book, and just finding out that they had been part of it, and then it was the way it was handled when it came to light. It just all looked really dodgy. It just all looked really sneaky. And then the final thing, hopefully not to offend a lot of people with this last point as well, but I've got to be honest, I am adding my story to the community. The last thing being the Bible itself. So, as crazy as I might now think that some of the things the witnesses believe are, but we know that in their literature, books, magazines, literally nearly every other sentence there is a Bible verse that is cited to support their claims. And a lot of the times it is in there. It is in the Bible. They're not making it up. And looking at the Bible itself again, actually going to read it cover to cover and taking off the rose tinted glasses and actually reading it for what it was. And yeah, it didn't seem like a nice person had uttered that. And I struggle to say this because I still have some of my dear friends that are Christians, but I just could not align myself with whoever the God of the Bible was. That was not a person that I was going to be trying to center my whole life around. Yeah, it just, there was just too much in there that I just looked. I'll save my words. Yeah, so just know. So it wasn't just the witnesses that I no longer believed were the one true of anything, but even the Bible itself was called into question as a very questionable book to base morals on, and it wasn't something that I wanted to be part of. Now I accept that I don't know if there is a being that has created everything. That's not what this discussion is about. There could be, there couldn't be. I just don't know. But I know that the God person described in the Bible was not someone that I could roll with if he was real, which I have no evidence of. So that's how I made my way out. And since then, I have been dealing with a lot of anger at the fact that happened to be my upbringing. and all the things that came with. Like I said, this is very high level. There's a lot of personal details that I'm not quite ready to share yet. Maybe one day I will, once I work through it and figure things out. If anybody here is an ex-witness yourself, you know that it can mess with your mind when you do get out. Things with my family are tricky. We did have a period of not speaking at all. So when I eventually did tell them that I was pregnant, we had a period of not speaking at all. I'm sharing this because I've gone ahead and had this conversation later on and how that felt. So we didn't speak for quite a long period of time. And right now, there's no real relationship as such. I know that it is difficult for them as witnesses because they get the message all the time on how to treat people or family members who have chosen not to be witnesses anymore. So I can understand their point of view, but there is a lot left to be desired in terms of what the relationship is, and I wish and I hope it will change. I don't know what will make it change, but that is the whole idea of family is a very sensitive topic for me, and I have a lot of work to do with that. But that's the story, very high level. Whoever that person is that is watching, thanks for staying on. I'm gonna finish now and head out. All right, thank you for listening. Talk soon. Bye-bye.